Hi.
Welcome to the In the Nick of Time podcast. This is episode 4. We have a lot to go over this week. Had an exciting and some pretty, really not really, well, it was exciting, but it was also a pretty crazy week. One here at the NFL. Plenty to
Bears
go
fans were happy.
over. Yeah, I was happy after breaking out of a long losing streak at the end of last week. But so here we are. Nick, how are you doing?
No complaints. I'm pretty happy too. I actually didn't get to watch as much football as I wanted. I was actually watching baseball all day Sunday. I didn't know what everyone was doing, but I
Really?
was like, no.
Yep.
I was,
I was looking.
dude. If you're like a capper, hypothetically, and you're just releasing baseball picks the first day of like NFL Sunday, and that would be so funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you actually cleaned. Some people say NFL's their best sport. I actually think really is like by far. You might be like one of the best. I mean, what your analysis and the lead up? You went what? You went 4-1.
Yeah, I'm in the Westgate Super Contest, and my picks went 4-1 this week, which I was really grateful for, considering all the craziness that happened. Um, really, I mean, I know there's some, with as crazy as this past week was, I would have been happy with 3-2, or gosh, I'm surprised we didn't go 2-3 or something like that. There were just so many upsets and so many surprises. So, but we went 4-1. The only game we lost was the 49ers. But so,
Yeah, I don't
so
know.
hopefully-
It's interesting. This year, I'm only betting underdogs, in a martyred effort to prove that you don't have to win very often to make money betting sports.
mhm.
So,
It's funny too because very rarely will I take a favorite of any kind. And if I do, it's usually in football. Usually, it's a small favorite, and I never take a publicly backed favorite. I won't say never. Should never say never always, right? But very, very rarely, I can't think of a time where I take a publicly backed favorite. Most of the NFL games I take are dogs. But I had, but with that said, how many I had four four of my picks in the Super Contest were favorites. I had the Chiefs, I had the Ravens, the Giants were the other one, and then oh no, that's not true. Three of them were, and then the Browns plus 1.5.
yeah,
I love that Browns play. That
dude, the Browns play. I love that too, man. I took them on the money line with the
yeah.
Giants.
That ended up. Oh, you took the Giants money line too. Good
Yeah,
call. We had to sweat that
and
one out too.
Seattle. I took it all money line. I mean,
Yeah,
I
there you
literally
go. That
only,
was, and
yeah.
I had Seattle first half last night. Um, that that game started out the way I thought it might be like a tie game going into halftime. Seattle had the lead. I thought that eventually, as we often do, we try to, it's more than predicting the game. It's predicting a narrative, maybe of not just the game, but maybe the rest of the ensuing week or even the season. And I thought this might be one of those games. Russell Wilson coming back. I knew that Seattle and their fans were going to be pumped. And I thought, it's his first game with a new team on the road against his former team. Maybe he comes out and is a little shaky and, it ends up close in the first half and then the Broncos end up pulling away. That's what I thought would happen. But, and maybe it wasn't outside of the turnovers. I mean, that Denver had, they fumbled twice on the one, I
Well,
believe.
essentially, you predicted the game pretty. Guess what, guys? We were right. No, but I mean fumbles are one of the things that are completely random. So if
Mhm.
you're ever having a bad year, just note to self, guys, you can just look at your fumble ratio, and it's like, wow, I lost. I was down this many units in football this year betting. Well, I was -9 in fumbles. So that's a way you can kind of look at it. So if you bet on Denver as your only game this year, you're down at your 0-1 with a -2 fumble ratio. That's
Interesting.
just a kind of way to keep track of your variance from an ex-poker player. But
Yeah. I remember
um,
Brandon Lang. If you ever seen that movie, Two for the Money,
so
he
two
used to
for
say
the
something. He used to say something back in the day. He said you can't handicap turnovers, and you know that was. I mean, there were some terrible, terrible coaching blunders in that game too. So, I mean, Denver is definitely the superior team, though. But I mean, hey, I got to give some props to Geno Smith. He definitely played a lot better than I feel like most people thought he would. Certainly exceeded my expectations. So kudos to him. Um,
Let's circle back to Cleveland for a second because I'm trying to drum up some drama. Let's say Cleveland goes 3-0. At what point do they come into game 12 and, Deshaun is not coming back on, they're not, or are they going to do two QBs? What are your thoughts there on, like, if they just roll in with a great record, why ruin a good thing, right?
no, and I definitely agree. The issue there is, their front office is going to have to ask themselves, did they pay all this money for Deshaun Watson to have him sit on the bench? But I mean, you have to ask yourself, is it do you want to win, or you want to go with what's working, or roll the dice? Even though obviously Deshaun Watson is the more talented quarterback than Brissett, but this kind of reminds me. I mean, it is apples to oranges, but this reminds me of the 08-09 NBA Finals. I've been a lifelong Orlando Magic fan, and Jameer Nelson was on the Magic. He was one of my favorite Magic players of all time, and he was injured. He got injured mid-season. Maybe 2/3 or 3/4 into the regular season, and was out for the entire playoffs, and was ready to come back for the finals. That was the year they were in the finals against the Lakers. And the Magic had Rafer Alston in there, and Skip to My Lou was balling. I was like, Magic, they were so balanced. They beat the Celtics in 7 games in the second round. In the Eastern Conference Finals, they beat the Cavs. LeBron was on the Cavs in 6 games. And what did they do in the finals? They brought back Jameer Nelson in the starting lineup, and then they
That's what I'm
lost.
saying.
And that was and I'll bring this tangent to a close, but the Magic should have won that series, in my opinion, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to call me crazy for that. But they were a free throw and a layup away from being up 3-1 in that series. And to this day, I will go to my grave believing that if they had just kept Rafer Alston in there and brought Jameer Nelson off the bench, I think they would have had a much better chance, in my opinion. That's coming from a lifelong
I'm
Magic.
with you, and I want to do a whole episode or segment about situations where this has happened,
Hmm.
where there's politics involved. You can't bench a $200 million guy, but everyone knows it's the right move. And I
Hmm.
and I and I and I bring it up. Are the Browns going to go 9-2 or 8-3? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
Lose.
everyone was so confident. Everyone's
Yeah.
NFL. I appreciate you stay grounded in it, but everyone's like, NFL egos are so big. It's like, settle
Mhm.
down, dude. You just literally mortgaged your house on the 49ers on Twitter and they lost.
Huh,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's like anyway, I don't know. I brought that up, but yeah, I think that's a good segment. Yeah, the front office politics and how it can, of course, we know that's not going to happen. I mean, maybe if they were 11-0. Any other
Yeah,
games though that stuck out with you?
yeah, I mean, obviously the Giants, that was my pick on Sunday. I was really definitely was a little nervous at first when that game started out 13-0 Tennessee, but like I said in my video, Tennessee I'm pretty low on. They have Tannehill, who I mean I'd like him to do well, but let's be honest. I mean I think he's pedestrian, at best. No AJ Brown, no Julio Jones. They've got some question marks at offensive line, and so which is going to hurt Derrick Henry. And if their offensive line isn't top notch, so um, I was just surprised at the end when the Giants went for two and then they got it. I was like, okay, like really with +5, I was like, make it or miss it. I might be okay here, you know. And they did get it, and then Tennessee missed the field goal at the end. So that was, but that was cool. We've talked about this many times. It's like I look at the videos where I make a bad pick, and I'm like, I'm a freaking moron, And then if I
Yeah,
in that video, I said I like them to cover the +5, and maybe went outright, and they ended up winning by one. So that was cool. I really thought that. Obviously I loved it. I didn't think it was gonna play out the way it did. But yeah, so that was a game that of course, surprised a lot of people. I think another game that really did was
yeah, hit me.
shoot, Colts and Texans. Gosh, a 20-20 tie. I mean, I'm interested to see how the Colts play out. And now I believe, let me check here. I believe the Colts go into, yeah, they play at Jacksonville next week, where they have struggled historically over the years. If you can remember last year, they needed to win the last game of the season in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville was bad last year. They just needed to beat Jacksonville to get in the playoffs, and they lost. And then the year before, the very first week one in 2 seasons ago, the Colts lost their first game of the year in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville finished the season 1-15. So
Oh, I do remember that. I
yeah,
do. I
that
mean,
was their only win. So historically, the Colts have had their struggles there. So is and week two is such. Week two is my favorite week of the NFL.
okay,
It's
why is that? Why? Okay,
because they're
yeah,
they're
because I
so
week one's my favorite from a purely betting standpoint in numbers. Why is week two yours?
it's funny you say that because week one for me historically has always been a tough week. It's probably the week I've struggled the most. I mean, I know I've had other weeks where I've had where I've gone ice
That's
cold, but it's
that's why I
always
love week one.
yeah. It can be tough though. But week two, I love week two because everyone's gonna write off the teams that are good. Like here's a perfect example. Last year, as a Packers fan, when the pack it was on a neutral, it was in Jacksonville actually, and the Saints beat the Packers 30. I think it was 38-3. And I was like, oh, Rodgers doesn't have his head in the game, blah blah blah. All the narratives, they're going to be terrible. And then, I think Jameis Winston had 5 touchdown passes in that game, and probably the easiest bet I've ever made in my life was the week after, and it was in week two. The Saints went and played Carolina. I was all over Carolina, and Carolina won outright. To me, that was so easy.
That
But
fe- that
oh,
fe-
the Saints, they beat Green Bay. They're going to be awesome. That's like that. That happens. That happens so often now, in week two. So I'm really looking to hopefully capitalize on a couple situations there. But it's not going to play out as well as it could. I would have loved to, really. I was kind of hoping that Dallas would win and then the Bengals would lose so that I could take the Bengals in week two. But now that whole situation is kind of a wash now, especially unfortunately Dak Prescott got hurt, which is going to be
oh
really tough for them. But
yeah, somebody's
really,
insurance policy is going to cover that. But the
yeah.
thing is one of the things that did I really like about your handicapping is I'm going to throw you another lob here, but is you have a plan. If this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. Whoever wins this game, I am taking the winner against this team. It's very, of course, I like it. I mean, it's, for week one, for me, it's all about nobody knows what's going on. Certain situational dogs are going to have value. It seems like for you, week two, you almost have, whether you write it down or not, a situational awareness that you execute on.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times where I'll look ahead 3 or 4 weeks sometimes, and I'll be like, okay, I see this game. If this happens and this happens and this happens, then I love this situation. It doesn't happen often, maybe a few times a season, but it usually works out. But all those things, like the narrative has to play out too. But there's a couple games on my radar where I think there could be an overreaction. But I'd like to see. It's still early. I mean, it's Tuesday night. Maybe by Friday or Saturday, I'd like to see. Especially where the money is going to get
We're,
get an idea of
we're,
public sentiment. Go ahead.
we're watching the line move.
Yeah,
We're watching the line moves, Pinnacle.
but there's a couple games for sure.
How
Um,
many games a year do you have that feeling where you're like, that was one of you just said it about the Panthers. You were like, I one of the best bets I've ever made, or the best. Would you say you have that once or twice a season? I mean, if you
well,
look at
that
Twitter, it seems like people have it once every day.
right, right. Well, that Panthers bet, I would say that might have been the easiest bet I ever made in my lifetime, and there have been many.
Well, no, I
Many
mean,
bets, but
I can tell when I talk to people, and shout out to our Discord, y'all, shout out. I can tell when someone really means it. It literally
right.
by the way they space their words, by
Mhm.
the way they are talking. Like you can just tell when it's not a lean, it's a real pick, and it's like okay. And yeah, I'm just curious, if that happens once a year for you, twice a year.
Well, that Panthers pick was a little bit that was a bit of an outlier because it was to me it was just so easy. Sometimes I get in my head to the point where I'm like, wait a second, am I the sucker? Like this seems way too like another. example to me. I Because another one that I would put in there as maybe in the top three of the easiest bets I ever made was the 0809 NFC Championship game. Cardinals were hosting the Eagles, and the Cardinals were, perennial basement dwellers for so long, and they were
Living at
they
their
were
mom's
plus.
house.
Yeah, they were +4, and I remember I knew there was no way the Eagles were going to win that game, and I remember I texted my friend Walter, walterfootball.com. Definitely check out his site if you.
Check that site out. That, you know what?
He's been
Yeah.
a friend of mine for a long time, and I remember texting him the day up because he loved the Cardinals too, and I was like, "Am I crazy? Because I feel so nervous. Like I feel like I'm the square, like taking the Cardinals here." And I think like 90% of the money was on the Eagles. He's like, "Well, he's like, that's not the and then he said the public's all over the Eagles, and then Cardinals ended up winning that game 32-25 was the final score. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
because
if
they
you guys
won.
don't know this, Quacky literally has a photogenic photo something memory. We're gonna have callers on, come on and randomly ask him questions. Not tonight, um, but yeah, I'm curious. Just I've been, this last week, on Twitter sphere, just in the world, with NFL, you hear a lot of predictions, you hear a lot of stuff. But I'm interested, and people are throwing out bets, and I was like trying to tell out people like, what is your best bet? Because there's a lot of new people coming into the space betting, and my thing is like you can get lost really fast, and so you want to find, like when you say that, I'm like, oh, really? Because I know guys and gals that will bet one bet a month, and they go 10-2 for the year, and they bet $10,000.
Wow.
I know one person. Okay, one person, but still, and it's where do you draw the line of, okay, that's one extreme to I'm going to run an algorithm and bet 15 times and scalp 2% per bet. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, this was kind of a thing I asked people, what cut out the leans, and I don't know if it's something you think about a lot. I certainly do. um, in terms of betting. NFL kind of provides discipline because it's not every day, but that
Mhm.
transition from baseball to NFL, um,
Yeah.
and so I think that kind of watching it all, at the end of the day, it's still going to be, you know, it's still going to be needing, NFL does provide you with a guidance, but you still need to be the one to execute whatever it is you're doing, whatever strategy. And that's why I like watching you cap, because I've said this before, you did one pick a day in baseball. You did one pick a day every day. You didn't get carried away. And with football, you had 4 or 5, but you have a plan. But really, the hard part about all this is executing, and people will search system to system for the holy grail. But the grail, it's in you. You got it. You're the system.
Right.
You can be provided all the great picks you want, but I've seen people mess them up. And so, end scene. That's the end of it. But that
No, it's true, and I think you're right. With NFL, because of it's not as frequent as something like baseball or basketball or hockey when those seasons start up. It can be easier to get. Well, I shouldn't say easier. On paper, it seems like it would be easier to stay more disciplined. But I mean, that's the toughest part about all this.
yeah, I
And
mean,
I mean, and think about like I always kind of segues into something interesting that I've always thought of. Like look at last night's game for example, Broncos and Seahawks. I think anywhere from depending on where you're looking, it seems like 80 to 90% of the money was on Denver.
yeah,
Denver's a lock. Denver's a lock. And I thought it would stay close early. I thought Denver would probably cover. They're the better team. But that's why I went with Seahawks first half. But how many times does that get set up? Because I heard a saying once, and I can't remember where or from who years ago. So it was like the whole purpose of the Monday night game is so all the bettors can try to get their money back in one
that's
night.
true. No, that's like
Yeah,
you can prove that with data.
yeah, and I think that's a perfect. It's how many. And it happens every week, I'm sure. But like last night was a perfect example where the Broncos look so easy. Someone had a really, and I'm sure many people did after this past Sunday. Good grief. But
No,
oh,
yeah,
okay, we'll get it all back tonight on Denver.
we'll just
It's
get it all
easy.
back tonight. We'll buy a
Yeah,
couple of points. Denver -3. It's -180. Let's put the kids to bed. We're okay. And it's like,
yeah,
no, you're
yeah. And
not.
then
I mean,
like that happens. Hmm.
tangenting into baseball, if you do if you do a back test, sure enough, the last game of every evening in baseball, big underdogs betting it blind. I don't give a shit who's pitching. I don't care who's batting or who. I don't care.
Right.
Blind big dogs, they outperform. I think it's 5 to 6% ROI. It's a thin edge, but the data set's over 2,000 games, and it's because of this chase effect, and the marketplace, i.e., the books, are shading lines, which, of course, we always touch on in every episode. But what are you looking at? What are you looking at this week? Just, like, what do you have that? I mean, we want that feeling. We want that feeling game if you have it, but is
I got a
anything
couple.
popping out?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
let's see.
I've got a couple. And nothing will be finalized. So until maybe Friday or Saturday. But one pick I really like. I definitely like the uh, the Lions. I can't believe they're only 2-point favorites. This is a perfect example. Again, as things stand right now, it's early, but you know the Lions. I think I'm very high on them. I'm very high on them, and I'm very high on the Eagles. That was a good game. 38-35 was the final. I think, and actually, Eagles are the other team I'm going to mention. I love the Eagles this week. Absolutely love the Eagles this week. I've been eyeing up the Eagles in week 2 for about a month and a half now because I said if the Lions keep it close against the Eagles in week 1 and the Vikings beat the Packers in week 2 or in week 1. So let me say that again. So if the Lions keep it close against the Eagles in week 1 and the Vikings beat the Packers in week 1, I love the Eagles in week 2. And that's exactly what happened. Because I think people are going to, oh, how could the Eagles, I think the Eagles are arguably maybe one of the best teams in the NFC. And I think
Oh,
and I think people won't think that they are because, are you kidding? Like they only beat the Lions by 3. It's like I think the Lions are going to be better than a lot of people think.
are you here? I'll be one of those people. Dude, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I think that I really think that the Eagles could be one of the best teams in the NFC. I think they're probably going to win in a romp against the Vikings. I mean, I'm salivating over here as things stand now. Maybe there's an injury or something before the game starts, but again, as things stand now, check back in on my TikTok and Twitter on Sunday and Monday if anything changes. But as
Yeah.
things stand now, I'm Monday night because the Eagles play on Monday night. That's going to be a big unit play for me,
Okay.
without a doubt. Lions, I'm high on too. Um, those are two games that really stick out to me. I'm also looking at the Patriots and Steelers. I see that New England is favored on the road in that game. Um, Interested to see where the money ends up, where the
Right
public
now, it's
spending
pouring
is.
in on. I have it. I've been trying. It's in New England.
Is it? Yeah, that's. I mean, T.J. Watt is going to be out too. It looks like he's not going to. I saw today he's not going to need surgery, but I think they said he's going to be out for 6 weeks. I've got my eye on that one too. Buccaneers and Saints. That's another one. Tampa Bay. I'm looking here just on the ESPN app, which is not. This. These aren't necessarily reliable lines on the ESPN app, but they're always pretty close. And
Dude,
Tampa's
back in the
-3. Saints historically give Brady a hard time. I mean, look, since he's been with the Bucks, he's 0 well, he's 1-4 against them. They beat him in the playoffs. But in the regular season, the Bucks with Brady are 0-4 against the Saints. So
dude,
something something to
I
consider.
I think Tom Brady took those time off because I don't know if there was even a fight. I think he was just like, I'm not playing another season unless I get a month off with the kids.
Oh
They're
yeah.
like, and they're like, okay. And he's like, we're gonna market it like we're fighting. No, anyway.
Yeah. another
Well,
another game. Oh, go ahead.
no, no, yeah. I just
Another
have to
game.
sprinkle in color.
Yeah, definitely could be, and they're definitely going to let him do whatever he wants. So, Bears and Packers. Now, this game I'm seeing on the ESPN app that the Packers are -10. This reminds me so much of last year when the Packers got blown out at Week 1 and then hosted the Lions the following week, and I think they might have been -10 or so against the Lions, and people were like a little bit hesitant because like, oh, the Packers just look like crap, and then the Bears just won their game against the 49ers. So I think maybe to some people that line looks a little bit high, and maybe it is. I mean, obviously anything can happen, but this
What's
reminds
the
me.
line? What's the 10 points?
10, yeah, Green Bay minus 10. And again, this is on the ESPN app, which isn't the most reliable line, but at least for, yeah,
Oh, I remember the first month ESPN started putting lines on their website. It was like 2015 or 2016. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember that. It was like,
Mm.
oh
I
my,
remember I remember seeing it, but I can't remember what it was. I
it
look at
was.
that, I don't remember something.
Okay,
um,
1990 World Series. I'm just
1990
kidding.
World Series. The Cincinnati Reds beat the Oakland A's. The A's had made the World Series three years in a row and only won one of them because they lost in '88 to the Dodgers, and then they swept the Giants in '89. That was the year of the earthquake in Game Three. Remember, there was the earthquake in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I wasn't there, but I lived in the city for 2 years, and every 2 weeks you'd be out drinking, and someone would, it was still in the ethos of it all.
Yeah, and '88 was the Kirk Gibson home run.
Oh, did they
Dodgers won the
cancel
that
the
was
World?
against the A's. It's off Dennis
Oh
Eckersley.
yeah, when he did the
I can't believe what I just saw.
just saw.
Great call.
God,
One of my favorite calls of all time. So
God,
they won '89, but then the Reds won. I believe it was in 6 games. I might be wrong on that one too, but it was definitely the Cincinnati Reds won in 1990. So,
is that what year did Ricky Henderson pick up the base for the A's and hold it over his head?
oh gosh.
That's like my first baseball memory, I think, watching
Oh,
ESPN.
interesting, interesting.
I don't know, and I was like, and because you're playing little league and you're going, and you're in little league, right? And you're just waiting to steal a base. You're 7, 8
Yeah,
years old. You're like, when are they gonna let us steal a base? And it's like finally, I don't know. And then
yeah, yeah,
finally, you're 9, 10 years old, and it's like, oh, you can steal now. It's like, okay, this is a whole new ball game. I can steal a base,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then there was like, in retrospect, the coaches, like, it was like, I guess, didn't let us steal that much because it was too easy. I don't know, but I just
yeah.
remember wanting to steal a base, and it has guided my whole life. Like this desire to steal a base. It's a big meta. No, I'm just kidding, but this like um, all right. Well, we went down memory lane for baseball, and we kind of went over some football. Um, let's, any other things kind of standing out? Because I know Tommy's going to hold back a little bit till Wednesday because he's going to win the Super Contest this year. He's going to get top three,
That would be awesome. I would be very, very happy. But
get a big
if,
tax bill.
if we can, if I can place, that would be cool. I'd be happy with that. It's my first time trying it, so
It's going to be
um,
awesome. Yeah, I guess we kind of hit it, the psychology, the recap. We're gonna try to have a guest on every other week. Um, and we maybe do it more often, less often. So we've gotten a few DMs about it, but if you can always give us a DM.
yeah.
We'll run you through a very strict interview process.
Yeah, it's only the most qualified candidates
Yeah, if you can't do a 30-second model, no. But yeah, give us a follow, especially, Quacky. He's putting out content daily, a daily pick. It's still a pick a day, keeps the freaking job away, doctor away, whatever. It's like, I just love that you do one pick a day. I am going to go on this 10-minute rant one time about like why everyone just needs to do one bet a day, and it would change your life if you just did one bet, but another time.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of my pick, it's looking okay. So far, the Twins are throwing a combined no hitter. One out in the top of the ninth. They're up 6-0. So
Are you serious?
yeah, yeah, combined no hitter.
Oh,
It's 6-0 Twins. So I took
what?
a -1.5 for my daily
How?
pick.
Oh yeah, plus 115.
Yeah, yeah.
Love
So
that. Yeah.
that was a good day to take the Twin. Well, I mean, I guess it's not over yet. Anything can happen, but it's top of the ninth, one out.
Yeah,
Whoever.
no jinxing. From now on, everyone just say, "Hey, it's looking good
Yeah, so far, right?
so far." Yeah. Well, give Quacky a follow, give me a follow if you're not, and if you're digging it, hit the subscribe, and we will.
Yeah. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. yeah, just in the nick of time. We'll see you guys.
Take care.